Last summer, I made a video that was heavily critical of the Aquilini's ownership of the Vancouver Canucks. In that video, I traced the history of their ownership from their controversial acquisition of the team to the treachery of last season. Every YouTuber at some point of their journey will make an apology video, and this is mine, but not for the reasons that you may think. I still stand by everything I said in that video. If it were not for the incompetence of the Aquilinis, the Canucks retool could have begun much sooner under the guidance of Mike Gillis, and we would not have had 8 years of bumbling Jim Benning. My apology is for one simple reason. I did not present the other side of the argument, and in this video, I will present a case for why the Aquilinis are good owners. Number 1, they will spend to the cap and above. The Canucks have seemingly had cap issues, well, since the implementation of the salary cap. The Aquilinis inherited their first general manager, Dave Nonis, but he was removed from his post in 2008 after missing the playoffs. As you all know, Mike Gillis was hired as his replacement and promptly offered a 37-year-old Matt Sundin $20 million over 2 seasons, which would have made him the highest paid player in the league alongside Danny Heatley. There is no way that Gillis did not have a conversation with ownership before this bombshell, whether that was in the job interview or the night before free agency. For better or worse, the Canucks have always been aggressive in free agency under the Aquilinis, and they have always been willing to spend to the cap in order to ice a competitive team. The cap has been flat since pre-COVID times, but there are still teams around the league who claim that they're trying to be competitive that won't spend to the cap. The Sabres, Predators, and Blue Jackets are 3 such teams. Prior to COVID, it was not unusual to see teams barely hover above the cap floor. Under Eugene Melnyk, the Ottawa Senators had financial difficulties, causing them to operate under an internal cap. In 2011, the salary cap in the NHL was $59.4 million, but this did not represent the Canucks' total wage bill. Roberto Luongo was in the first season of a front-loaded, 12-year, $64 million contract. Although his cap hit was a paltry $5.3 million, his salary that season was $10 million. The total value of the checks signed by Aquilini in that season far exceeded the salary cap's upper limit. The Aquilinis are willing to spend, and that takes me to my next point: investment in amenities. In the spring of 2008, Mike Gillis met Francesco Aquilini in his home at Point Grey. Gillis was an agent at the time and thought he was going to be meeting about Marcus Naslund, a client of his who was a pending UFA. Instead, he was surprised that Aquilini wanted to discuss management. At one point, the conversation took a turn and Gillis began to press Aquilini. He wanted to know if the Aquilinis were willing to do whatever it took to win. Evidently, he liked their answers because 3 weeks later, he was hired as a Canucks GM. One of his first initiatives was to turn Vancouver into a hotbed destination for free agents. This was going to be a challenge because of excessive travel. This was not an easy endeavor, but hats off to the Aquilinis. They opened up their checkbooks and started splurging on amenities for the players. The Canucks became leaders in sports science, analytics, psychology, nutrition, you name it. They consulted with doctors from the United States Air Force in order to maximize rest. They hired sports psychologists and encouraged their players to attend sessions. They built a mind room where players could meditate, recharge, and go over all of their highlights in order to build or rebuild their confidence. They had chefs, nutritionists, you name it. All of this did not come for cheap, and I know some of you may be saying that the Aquilinis cut corners in their other businesses, which is probably true, but when it comes to their crown jewel, the Vancouver Canucks, they will spend. Yes, the Canucks, along with the Flames, are the only teams without dedicated practice facilities. When you look at real estate prices and supply in the Lower Mainland, can you really blame the Aquilinis? However, since the arrival of Jim Rutherford, it has become a priority. And don't be surprised if plans for a new facility are announced before the end of the season. Hey everyone, I have a few videos in the chamber, and they will be releasing over the course of the next few weeks. Make sure you smash that subscribe button and click the bell notification icon to be notified when they drop. Now back to the video. Point 3, they are willing to spend on buyouts. The idea of cheap owners has spread amongst a segment of the Canuck fan base, and I'm not sure where this began. Perhaps the Aquilini's reputation in business precedes them, but it feels like this idea really spread during COVID, faster than the virus itself. During the bubble season, fans were upset that the Canucks did not acquire a third-string goaltender, which would have allowed Michael DiPietro to develop in the minors. Fans were also critical of the small front office under Benning, but what if that was a fault of Benning and not Aquilini? As you can probably tell by now, all of my points have been related to money, but like a sugar baby arrangement, it all comes down to the money. In Vancouver, as long as the GM needs money, the checks will continue to flow. Under the ownership of the Aquilinis, the Canucks have bought out David Booth, Keith Ballard, Braden Holtby, Jake Virtanen, and of course OEL, who was being paid $20 million to not play for the Canucks. If it were not for that buyout, the Canucks would not be on top of the league standings. They would not have been able to sign Suter, Bluger, Soucy, and Cole, so hats off to Francesco for ponying up. Number 4. Local ownership that wants to win. Prior to the Aquilini's ownership of the Canucks, the team was owned by Seattle businessman John McCaw. McCaw's intentions with the team were ambiguous at best. He was an absentee owner for the most part, and the team did not have the wage bill of the true heavyweights in the league, the Avs and Red Wings. How much did McCaw really care about winning the Stanley Cup? Ask anyone who has worked with or interacted with Francesco Aquilini. They will tell you the same thing. He desperately wants to win a Stanley Cup in Vancouver. Now, of course, we all very much disagree with the methods that he has used, the meddling and the refusal to rebuild, but let's set all of that aside and enjoy where the team is right now. 2 years ago, Francesco was able to recognize his countless mistakes, and he faced the music. He had to fire his yes man Jim Benning and appointed a no-nonsense hockey lifer as club president. Now the fans are being rewarded for almost a decade of mediocrity with an exciting and winning brand of hockey. Let's just hope it continues and Aquilini just fades into the background as a cheerleader, not a puppet master. That's all I have for today, and I understand this may be one of my more controversial takes, but it was necessary to counterbalance my video from last year, which I have actually taken down. I know many of you have reservations about the Aquilini, so feel free to let it all out in the comment section below. Just please keep it civil. Until next time, cheers.